you ready for this?
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn. Hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
All right, here we go. Take two. I know I'm going because I see green numbers. Let's see what this is going. Welcome to the 21st episode of Trollin HGC, Heroes of the Storm podcast focused on esports, a member of the Trolls GG Entertainment Network. I'm your host, LiQuid, and I'm joined today, as always, by Bahgz. How's it going, man?
What's up? I'm not even going to acknowledge the fact that this is take two, except that I just acknowledged it. Feels like we're both on that California dreaming life right now, man.
Right. It's a challenge, right? Because I disconnected stuff to take it with us because we did an episode out there in California while we were there. All four of the trolls got on a couch. We had some really, really poor audio quality, but we sat there, we talked, we had a good time, we shared our thoughts and our dreams for BlizzCon, and then I got home, and I literally hooked this stuff up like 10 minutes before the Nexus Trolls. And so I had to go and I had to configure OBS so that OBS knew, oh, I should be working now. You mean this stuff is real? So yeah, that's my bad, guys. Apologies. And before we jump into stuff, because we have a lot of stuff to talk about today. I say a lot of stuff, but we do and we don't. I want to thank our Patrons over at patreon.com/TrollsGG. We do share that with the Nexus Trolls. And in fact, all of the Trolls GG network is generating for that Patreon, including our new writers. We have 4 new authors that are writing posts on our website. You should check those out. But the show will always be free if you're looking for a way to support us. Hit us up on Patreon. We use that money to feed the BlizzCon machine and to give away things. We had a ton of sunglasses and t-shirts that we gave away at BlizzCon this year, and I want to have even more next year to give away. I also want to see if we can't maybe get a get-together together next year, which I think would be kind of cool. So, yeah, definitely check that out. And following along that theme, our Troll of the Week this week is actually Romedy MC, which is crazy. So, a couple weeks ago, Dorsch was our Troll of the Week, and he instantly became a writer for us, like literally the next day. Romedy actually published his first article today about the sports psychology of a brand new team in esports. I think I got that right. Something like that. Anyway, he's a PhD candidate in clinical psychology, and he is writing for Trolls GG on how that works with all those esports teams out there. So thank you for being our Troll of the Week and also being an awesome author. That if you haven't had a chance to read it, definitely go check it out. It is a phenomenal post.
I'm actually working my way through it now, and I'm just past the point where he describes how typically the first opinion comes up is like wrong, like the first person to express their opinion and share it is incorrect, but
right,
and that after the group has time to like discuss differing opinions.
Yep,
you come across the right one, but that only works in a team environment, and then he like even prefaces it that like it doesn't really work in solo play because you don't have time to
right, to discuss.
You just need to go with the call type thing.
Right. Yes, so definitely check that out. It's on trolls.gg, or you can follow us on Twitter. All of our featured articles get tweeted out, so definitely check that out. It's also on Reddit too. It's doing pretty decent on Reddit for a for a new post. So got to give it to him. It's a good thing. It was a good thing. All right, let's jump into some news, shall we? The news bumper was supposed to play, but I forgot Daz moved the news bumper. Oh man, production value is off the charts today.
Solid Jake would be proud right now.
Solid Jake would be proud right now. You know what?
Hashtag production.
I'm going to take a second, and I'm actually going to fix this because it will only take me 1 second to fix it. And then we're actually going to have our real bumper before we jump into. So here we go. Let's try this. Take.
Tonight on the Trolls.gg podcast network, Trollin HGC proudly presents Heroes Esports News, Notes, and Drama with your hosts, LiQuid and Bahgz.
All right. So now that we got all that worked out, Paldor posted some interesting thoughts on Rosterpocalypse, and we did link to those in the show notes. Did you get a chance to read those?
I did read I read the tweet longer, actually. I really liked it. A lot of us kind of jumped down the throat of NA Rosterpocalypse specifically and say,
right.
Hey, roster change is bad because it doesn't build, it doesn't give teams a chance to mesh. And you know what it is I think we've all, and I'm a victim of this as well. And I'll take some blame here for encouraging the mentality that roster change is bad, and that we were kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. My mind's still in California, man. Jet lag-ish. But we were all, we'll say our mentalities were poisoned by 2016 NA, right? Where teams were changing every weekend, and now it's like teams are forced to stick together for 6 months at a time, which is more than enough time to figure out that something's not working.
Right.
And teams aren't just like banding together for a weekend and then blowing up after that weekend because it didn't work. Like, which is really what really got us to the point where we are now, where we really despise roster change.
Yep.
So, and you know how this is life too, man. The pendulum swings both ways. We can never really find the sweet spot, and it's probably swung too far the other way. So
right.
Paldor wrote that tweet longer. It was really insightful and had some really good points about you find out that maybe a team doesn't have a good shot caller, or they have two people trying to be the shot caller, and it's just people have different mentalities on things, and it's just and those are just a couple of the points that he brings up, that after 6 months you pretty much got it figured out. And now that the year's over, and I would like to use the NBA as a point of reference here, is the NBA nowadays, not like it used to be, but nowadays players are all over the place. The NBA landscape changes every year, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It kind of draws some hype.
Right.
Carmelo Anthony and Paul George being on the Oklahoma City Thunder this year, joining Russell Westbrook. That's a big deal. There's a lot of hype behind that squad right now. Kevin Durant going from the Thunder to the Golden State Warriors, and then they win an NBA championship, joining Steph Curry over there. That's a big deal. And this isn't core, so I'm going to make sports ball references so people from time to time, guys, because I do follow professional sports, unlike a lot of people in the esports scene. So bear with, but it's that's how the NBA is nowadays. That, and that's not a bad model necessarily
right.
either. Obviously the right answer is somewhere in between, and I think we're getting there. There's been a lot of complaining about the current roster rules, where only can move 2 players, or we can only move players in, and there are issues there. And I wish Blizzard would have came out and mentioned. Spoiler alert, by the way, BlizzCon, we didn't get any HGC updates, any news besides results.
Right.
That's what's going to happen in 2018. Hopefully we'll get some more in that one. But anyways, go ahead. What are your thoughts on this? You read through it too as well, right?
So I think it was well written. I think I'm of two minds. I think sometimes there are people making decisions that may not be the right people to make those decisions. So you can have a Rosterpocalypse that's a bad thing, because let's look at the end of phase 1, what happened with B-Step, right? I don't think that was necessarily right for all of those players. Let's look at, we're going to dump Crowan. I don't know. I mean, I understand the reasoning behind some of that, but I don't know that that was the right decision. So I get stuck in this thought process where you can say, well, 3 of the 5 people don't like you, so you 2 are leaving. To me, that doesn't work, right? To me, you should have, there needs to be an analyst or a coach or something somewhere that's making that decision, not just the majority of the team or the one shot caller of the team. You know what I mean? And that's
I would,
what I struggle with.
I think we definitely need to get to a point. We're not there yet.
Mhm.
The scene isn't. The scene hasn't grown that much yet, or we're just not there yet. Where there is a higher power in charge that's in charge of roster decisions. Like, to make the comparison to Overwatch League, there are general managers on the team, and I don't believe the players have say. Like, or maybe they do. I don't really know. We're not behind the scenes, but
Right.
I don't believe the players in Overwatch League are going to have say on like who gets to stay on the roster and who doesn't. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but Heroes isn't there yet. Where like there's a lot of teams that aren't, don't have an org behind them, and then even the teams that do have an org behind them, it's just like it's not to a degree where they have a general manager or a manager that has say in decisions like that like put the team together and it can take the team apart. You know what I mean? And in pick and plug pieces. It's unfortunately we're not there yet. So we're at a point where we have to have faith in the captains or the majority of the players making, very mature and I guess that's the best way to put it, is mature decisions on that, and like really taking the time to step back and like say like and figure out what the real issue is there and going forward. And go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with. I completely agree with you. And Annalise just reminded me of, I think, the one that I was most bothered by at the end of phase 1, and that was Faye just getting like, you could try out for your spot again, Faye. That blew my mind when Superstars removed Faye. Like, wait, what? Like, you guys really do? And I don't know if you remember that, but it was like some of the other changes I kind of understood, but that one and Crowan, just those two completely blew me away. So hopefully with the new ownership rules and everything else, those will be addressed and we won't have some of the similar situations. But again, we still haven't seen the actual rules for 2018. We've seen a blog post about them saying these are the things we're changing. I want the actual rule book. Like, I want to go through the rules.
Oh, I agree. There was a PDF that we can access for 2017. We need something for 2018.
Right.
I don't know if it's just not been made available yet, if it's already done, if it's not done. I don't know what restrictions the teams are working in right now, besides like, here's what we know about the end of the season 2018 roster changes as fans. Maybe the players know more. Kala really didn't hit at it last night, and he was tweeting about it. That's
even today else. He tweeted at it. He's like,
he was
dude,
still talking
like,
about it.
Right.
So you and I jumped in on that conversation. It's
right.
Here's what we know. Right now, for the rest of this week, players are being dropped. All right, this is the drop period. Next week is the acquire period. So players are going to be that are dropped, they're going to get picked up, or free agents from open division, wherever. Those are the players that are going to get picked. Then a 2-day period following that is going to be the approval period, where Blizzard approves the process, which my buddy Guaz wasn't happy about that, but me personally, I really like that. The NFL, the NBA has that. Another example with the NBA, David Stern squashed, towards the end of his tenure, squashed a Chris Paul to the Lakers deal,
right.
because it just didn't seem right. So there is it's nice. That's a situation where there's an overarching power that can squash stuff. But my point being is we don't know how many players can be dropped. We don't know, like, it's just, all we know is there's a drop period. And here's the other thing we don't know. Like, so there's no news out right now, right? We just know a couple guys that announced it on Twitter that they're free agents, right? There's probably a ton of stuff happening in the background. But last period, it was everything kind of was like filtering through the week. Now it seems like it's just going to get all dropped on us in one day. Like after the approval period, is that when all this news is going to come out? Like, here are your rosters for 2018. Is that what's going to happen? Because we weren't told that.
So here's the interesting tidbit to that, right? So Heroes Hype, Flag wrote a great, he didn't write a great thing. He tracked down all the free agents right now, and he's got one page on Heroes Hype that has all of the free agents and positions in Twitter, right? Looking for any feedback, and he's kind of tracking that stuff, which is kind of similar. It's more in depth than our tracking sheet because it's focused on all the free agents. What'll happen is free agents will no longer be free agents before Blizzard approves the things, right? Or maybe the players will be smart enough to stay as free agents and just not mark themselves as no longer free agent. But a lot of them on their Twitter, it's like their name F/A, right? So It'll be interesting. It'll definitely be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. If I remember correctly, the rules for 2017 dropped towards the end of November. I expect the rules for 2018 to drop at the same time. But I'm dying to read them. And yes, like Annalise says in chat, Heroes, Hearth, and Leftovers are the only 2 teams that can't make any changes. And the 2 Korean teams that made it in.
Yeah.
Right.
My other gripe is, and I'm in complete agreement with Kala here, is like this whole roster change period is condensed to this like 2-week period immediately following BlizzCon, which initially sounded fine to me. I didn't really think about it and put 2 and 2 together, but then like when he came out about it, it's a serious issue that it's right after BlizzCon, because these teams that aren't in BlizzCon are trying out players or approaching players that are in BlizzCon, which is a complete distraction and not fair at all, right? So the teams that are trying to compete at BlizzCon, and that's why should those teams have to worry about that when their focus should be on BlizzCon, on the HGC finals? If you were to bump this entire transfer period to later down the line, like I don't know where the sweet spot is. I haven't put a lot of thought into it, but the fact is like HGC is not going to start again until the end of January. So we have the rest of this month, December, and the beginning of January to worry about days. So like, it's not, for what it's worth, it's not a long off season, but it is long enough that you could throw that. It could be a month-long period, right? Like, right.
Well, that's the catch, right?
And if you're still looking to, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, and if you're still looking to protect players who get dropped at the last minute and not have a chance to try out for teams,
right?
Like, you can still break up the drop period and acquire period, which, as far as I'm familiar, that's not something that's kind of unique to Heroes, but. I like it so we don't have another Faye incident where someone gets dropped at the last minute, doesn't have an opportunity to get on the team. But you can make it a month long. So you have a 2-week drop period, right? So you drop, you want to make a change. You don't necessarily know who you want to put there. You drop said player for the first 2 weeks of December, and your acquire period is the last 2 weeks of December.
So let me throw something out at you. Well, first of all, you can't interfere with Christmas. Like, that's a problem, and Blizzard recognizes that, right? Like, you need to not interfere with Christmas. But let me throw something at you. I don't follow sports ball as much as you do. But if I recall correctly, in football, you can't actually talk to other players.
There's a free agency period.
Right?
That's correct. And if teams get found out that they're doing that, like meddling.
It's a huge deal. Right.
It's a big deal. Right.
So, like, that's the kind of thing we need to have developed around this for 2018 that says, okay, BlizzCon ends on, let's say, the 6th. I'm not looking at 2017 calendar or 2018 calendar, so I'm just guessing, but let's say BlizzCon ends, let's just say the 5th, like it technically did this year. The free agency period could start on the 6th, but that would keep people from talking between teams, right? Until, it could be 2 days after BlizzCon. All right, guess what? Now you can talk to your team. But then that brings in another thing. China's Gold Cup World Cup happens during the break, which it has always happened traditionally every year. It happens a month or so after BlizzCon, right? So the question becomes, what roster do you have to bring there? Because you don't want to bring your old roster. You'd want to bring your new roster because that's going to have, So it's like, timing is weird, and Blizzard really needs to kind of grab a hold of that just so that they can work that out, right?
I guess third-party tournaments are hard to adjust around. I feel like, honestly, personally, if I feel like a top-tier team is going to make changes, and they say they're invited to that tournament, you pass up the invitation if you feel like you're not ready and you're making changes.
That's true too. That's fair. Okay.
And if they're ready for it, then they take the invitation and they go. That's all. I don't know if there's an instance. I guess the closest instance I can think of this is like Energy, like. This is going to Overwatch eSports earlier in the year. They went on the side burner and like completely rebuilt the roster and just didn't enter any tournaments until they felt they were ready. And after the team had time to mesh too. Ultimately, that team came out pretty flat, so it fell on its face. But just as an example, like like say Roll20 is making massive changes, they shouldn't feel pressure to get their changes made and that team mesh together and go to Gold Club like that. Like if they're not ready, just say, hey, we're not going to go, and
Right.
I don't know. Maybe they can't pass up the prize money. I don't know, but or the org doesn't want them to pass it up because it wants the exposure. Who knows? But that's what I would think you would do if you felt like you weren't ready and you just made sure you're ready for 2018. You made the right roster decision. So
yeah.
I don't know what the right answer is. I really have to sit down and talk to a lot of people that are smarter than me about it. But I feel like a 2-week period in December and then a 2-week period, a 2-week drop period and a 2-week acquire period in December. Just use the entire month of December.
Right.
We'll call it. It'll be Heroes versions of the winter meetings that baseball has. And
right. And it just make it work out. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, speaking of Rosterpocalypse, there is a Reddit mega thread, which is kind of cool. And then
it's by Ultra Jonte, by the way. That's one of our listeners.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. I saw you guys chatting about that somewhere. I don't remember.
On Twitter. I wanted to give him a shout out.
That's it.
Credit where credit's due. He did a great job.
So there is a mega thread. There's also a tracking sheet. Both of those are linked in our show notes. You guys can find those later on tonight. But right now we only have 4 changes that we can successfully talk about as being complete or like in the process. And that, like we covered 2 weeks ago, Udall has retired. He is casting a Rect League Thursday night. And then Tiger J. Kane, Talking Trees are both free agents off of Space Station Gaming. And Prismaticism has left Roll20. Now, one of our aspiring listeners, watchers, viewers, however we're going to call this, Stack Pointer, pointed out that Glaurung no longer has Roll20 on his Twitter page.
That's interesting.
Doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yep, boss, where are you, man? Come
right?
on, Charles.
He was and the funny thing is, he was actually in chat during the Nexus Trolls.
He wouldn't give us any insider information.
No, he wouldn't.
Not here, anyways.
No.
So.
And then also, where was it? Schizophrenic pointed out that Akaface also removed GF, or Aka had previously removed GFE, and it's still not on his page. So, yeah, we might not have. They may be free agents, they may not. It's hard to tell. Like, you really can't read into much of that, right?
Listen, we've been promised like a huge roster apocalypse, the likes of we've never seen before from both NA and EU, and it's probably going to happen because like when you think about all the ingredients, right? Like, so we have a league now, right? Heroes has never been more competitive. Like before, it was very top heavy in at least in NA, and both EU and NA are much more competitive 1 through 8, for sure. The aspiring pro pool has grown, as far as I can tell, anyways. It's teams are taking this much more seriously than they ever have before. That is my take on this, and because of that, we are going to see some crazy changes because these teams, like the goal is a much more. I don't want to say feels achievable, but like there's the picture, right? Like before you were competing for cups and like and regional. I don't know how to explain it. It was a lot more ambiguous. Now there's this structure, this backbone that's there. This very, very, I don't know. There's a league, man. There's a league, and it just means more. That's the best way I can say it. Like there is a league, and it means a lot more to these players now. And it's something you can feel, touch, watch every weekend, and then you see these players see BlizzCon happening, and when we were there was a ton of players that didn't quite qualify for BlizzCon that were there, and some of them tweeted out like, I can't wait to. I think it was homicidal. I cannot wait to get home and grind some Hero League and really put the work in, and that mindset's there on the rest of the teams too. Like they want the vision to construct these teams perfectly. They've learned so much from this past year. I think we're going to see a lot of changes, and it's just something to be excited about. I can't wait. I don't know when we're going to get them. I'm assuming at this point, since we haven't heard anything, we're not going to get any news until the end of when this is all done and the team rosters are finalized. But, bummer.
So, yes, it's very strange, right? Like, we've heard from multiple people that this will be a roster apocalypse to remember, with no specifics, but we've heard from multiple people that it will definitely be a roster apocalypse to remember. That tells me it's probably going to be large and crazy shit is gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like weird like okay.
There's already been like rumors of poaching and stuff going on too.
Right.
And I'm kind of curious how that's gonna go. Like, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but there was like a tweet went out last night that got deleted and that referenced it. And I'm not gonna say who tweeted it out and in reference to what team, but one went out as like a friendly reminder that, you know, there are anti-poaching rules in place. And now with like the league ownership that's in place, like Trent was talking about on our two episodes ago, the pre-BlizzCon episode, like Blizzard is in a position where they weren't before, where they have a much stronger, they have a lot more leverage when it comes to punishing teams, disciplining teams for poaching and doing things that are against the rules, whereas like they weren't so before. Like now that they have to buy into Blizzard's league, you know, it's they have that capability. So I don't know how the league ownership's breaking down. We haven't gotten more information about that either. It's just, I can go on and rant about the lack of information for the fan base, but point is, it's going to be huge. And I'm like, there might be some drama popping out here shortly, like later, like what if we see an org get like punished or fined a set amount of, you know what I mean? Like, or a move gets unapproved, doesn't get approval, right? Because teams were poaching. Like, what kind of ramifications does that have for the fan base of that squad too, right? Like it's a great time. It's a great time to be a Heroes esports man, and I say it all the time, but it's true.
All right. So the only other thing we wanted to talk about, Psistorm has acquired Deadly Kittens, and now is where it gets crazy because you're like, Psistorm, isn't that an NA company? Indeed, it is an NA company. And if you read the responses and read the announcement, they took the 3 members of Deadly Kittens that spoke English, the core 3 members, and they are targeting to play in NA in 2018.
Right. So they took the players that were from the Philippines or Singapore or something like that.
I think it was the Philippines players, yeah.
Okay, because the other 2 went to Soul Torturers, and then they brought in 2 Korean players who I assume are going to go back to Korea.
Right.
It's a little misleading. They didn't acquire the org Deadly Kittens. Deadly Kittens is going to field another Southeast Asian Heroes team.
They acquired the core team that was Deadly Kittens.
They acquired the players, and the players look like they're going to compete in NA under Psistorm, which has a Hearthstone player, if I did my research correctly, and they have do they have an Overwatch team?
I don't think they do.
I'm gonna pull the link.
You would know better than I would.
Let's see what I can find here real quick. They do have a Hearthstone player who competed at BlizzCon. This I know. They have an Overwatch team and a CSGO team. So it's a smaller org. It's not a huge org, but it doesn't matter. Like it's what does matter is it's more of that. And I've mentioned it before. Like Blizzard all the eggs are in the NA, or not the NA, but the major region basket, right? So we're going to continue to see the high-end minor region players flock to these major regions. We've seen it with J Street. He's in Canada now.
Yep.
We've seen it with Robodoba.
Well, is he actually? Has he made it to Canada yet?
Oh, that's a note we forgot to put on here. Robodoba is going to the UK, man.
Yes. Well, no, we talked about that like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago.
We talked about no, not Arcaner. Robodoba, the tank from Darkseid.
Oh, you're right. Robodoba is moving now too. You're right. We totally missed that. All right. So to answer your question, Schizophrenic is asking why in chat, and you alluded to this a little bit because we're gonna have J Street moving, or playing in Canada now. We're gonna have, like all of these minor region teams are losing players to major regions, and there are some reasons behind that. And those reasons are simple. There will only be one minor region slot per area now. So
per clash, per clash and per major event.
So
sorry, not clash at all. They don't even get to go to a clash. I'm a liar. Sorry.
Right.
Per midseason, per international
they get
event.
Correct. So the way it's gonna work is the minor regions will have to actually play each other to get the spot, because there will only be one spot. So ANZ plays Latin America and only one team makes it, and then Southeast Asia plays Taiwan and only one team makes it, because the other spot that would have gone to the minor region teams in 2017 will actually go to a major region team depending on who wins the Western Clash and the Eastern Clash. So now you're going to see it's even more important for these people to move to a major region instead of a minor region.
Right. And to answer Schizo's question, why NA? Because if you want to pick a major region that's probably the easiest to break into, it's probably NA.
Well, and
The reason why the Australian guys go to the UK is because, as far as I know, it might be easier for them to get visas, being a Commonwealth nation, to get over that way.
so the other thing I was gonna point out, Schizophrenic, is my question about J Street wasn't so much that not knowing he'd moved to Canada already. I was aware of that, but the fact that he literally sat like 5 chairs down from us, I think most of BlizzCon. So and I know he was gonna spend some time in California after that. Yes. So craziness abounds. And Annalise, I too am saddened by the screwing of the minor regions. I have long been a minor region proponent on this show. Both Bahgz and I, we talk about the tournaments whenever they're coming up. Heroes Hype's also doing a lot of stuff in Latin America, trying to build that scene more. It's a huge bummer what is happening to the minor regions, but at the same time, I also understand the draw behind saying we want to make sure that we're having all of the best teams come to BlizzCon and not just the ones that qualified, right? We don't want to have to give up a spot for maybe if you look at like I can't think of a good example. Just 3 European teams made it in. And I wouldn't necessarily say the number 4 year, like Team LiQuid's not better than the minor regions.
Well, here's the thing. Wish.
Yes. Wish is a good example.
Wish would have been, so we'll use the most recent clash as the example. Wish would have made it to BlizzCon. They would have been the 4th seed from EU because Fnatic won the most recent clash.
Right.
So they would have, EU would have got to send an extra team. It would have been Wish. And you don't even have to make the argument. Like, I'm just going to safely say that Wish is probably a better team than Darksided, and Wish is probably a better team than Deadly Kittens, or at least what we saw. Wish is probably better than Red Cannons. That probably the closest competition for the minor region would have been Soul Torturers. So.
Well, and I also agree. Like, the biggest problem is the visa issues, because like China still hasn't shown up. I went out on a ledge and said China was going to win at least one of their.
You're not alone. I said CE was going to beat Tempo Storm. We could probably I can open up the notes and go over our predictions, and like we probably have a little bit of egg on our face from it, right?
I totally wish China did better than they did, but
it is what it is. You know what it is? LiQuid at GCWC, we're going to get a much better look at those teams. They're going to have their full rosters. Going to be playing in their home country. I fully expect the matches with them versus NA and E to be much more competitive. I still think it's safe to say that Korea will probably show best.
Well, it'd be interesting. I'm hoping that Fnatic dig and Roll20.
Well, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, you're right. All right, let's you know what? Let's jump into some results. How about that?
All right.
The hook is going to help out, and we're going to see Stitches fall as well. It's going to be a 1-for-1 trade.
It's a 1-for-1 trade as we once again have the Dragon Blade used on the side of Genji. He's trying that in, dashes out, sail yellow.
That was just about the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's a dance party, and you're invited.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to HGC Western Clash.
All right. So, we did have BlizzCon this week. This past week. It was amazing to see in person. It was amazing to see the games, period. But like watching it in person was doubly amazing. But that's okay.
Listen, it was like one of the best experiences of my life. So it was my second BlizzCon, and I watched a lot of HGC, and it's where I fell in HGC and fell in love with the Heroes eSports scene. Was the 2015 BlizzCon where Cloud9 won, and I followed the scene loosely before that. Don't get me wrong, but that's where like I really like it. Just clicked. Something clicked. Like, this is what I want. This is what I want, and I don't know how to explain it. This is what I want to talk about. This is what it became my new Warcraft rating. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm not very good at Heroes, so I can never play professionally, but I can watch and I can talk about it, and I don't even have to understand it at the most highest level because I'm not an analyst. I just need to talk about it and get this out of my system. So it was awesome. You and I were front and center both days.
All but one game, man. One game we were one row back.
So Freedom, which shout out to Collusion and Team Freedom, shout out for getting me this shirt and signing it. But That was the only time we were in the second row. The rest of it, we were the front row, front and center. And it was awesome, right?
Right.
One of the highlights of this event was when Roll20 was playing Ballistics on Battlefield of Eternity, and when they landed that first kill on Swoy, and you just heard Glau yell over the crowd, Swoy, Swoy, like screaming it, right? And then like 10 seconds later, Swoy was dead. So it was like it was that moment, like maybe like, you know, R.I.P. Glau if he's not on Roll20 anymore, but like dude has vision, right? So he saw something there before the rest of us saw it, like at least us in the crowd, right? Because he was making the call that they had the opportunity to kill him, and oh my god!
And it was not quiet in that arena, man. It was loud.
It was very loud. And after they won that game, like our buddies, we took the pictures of them with the Fnatic jerseys, but they had the Roll20 signed Roll20 jerseys on at that time. The one dude like jumped over the seats and like bear hugged me, and we were like jumping up and down
dancing and jumping up and down in that little area between the front row and the stage itself. That was amazing.
Ah, it was great, man. And my hand was just like shaking, you know, like it was insane. I would have loved to have seen Roll20 make it to the next round. Unfortunately, what mars how well they played in the first two games is that third game where things just the doors and the wheels and everything, and the car broke down, and we got like Lagif in that game. Like I don't know, like
we're ahead of ourselves though. We're ahead of ourselves.
All right. That's all right. Go ahead.
So we're gonna start with the quarterfinals. You know, but everybody's basically seen the results at this point. If you haven't, like, you're living under a rock, and go check them out. They were great games. But MVP Black 2-0'd Team Freedom, and I think as much as we both like Team Freedom, I mean, they were like night before BlizzCon, I ran up to them. I got them to sign my NA Hope T-shirt. Those guys are awesome. They're probably hands down the most chill team we met this week. And there you can see Bahgz has got his jerseys all signed up, or his T-shirt all signed up. Aether's been on the show. Like cool guys. But I think we both called for them to lose 2-0 to MVP Black. Like, MVP Black just looked unstoppable going into it.
No doubt. Listen, I just want to give a shout out to them for they didn't draft cheese. They didn't draft any pocket strategies. I had a chance to speak with Aether after the game. He just he was disappointed with the whole coaching system, but I don't want to really dive into that right now. We're talking about results. And he just said we got outdrafted. Like, they knew what we wanted to do, and they just completely countered it, and that's what it came down to. Like, Black was just completely outdrafting him. I was going to say, lost my train of thought.
I mean, kudos to Black though, because they actually appeared to have studied all the teams this time around.
Oh, right. No, a huge improvement over what we got from the midseason brawl, right?
Right.
I will say, like, on Team Freedom, they won a couple of team fights on Braxis. It was a lot more competitive. They really showed it's a strong team fighting team. And they got outdrafted, and it's a shame. Like, Cavalier Guest put out the write-ups on, I believe it was Cavalier Guest, put up the write-ups on all the matches, and he just, like, you know, he said, like, Black brought over, like, the Korean mindset where you isolate the tank and just delete it, and then and your tank in competitive play is the linchpin of your team, right? So, like, Zugrug was just getting deleted, right?
Destroyed,
so like you and I mentioned it, like, there was a ton of Kerosene play from the Korean teams, and there was a ton of 7-sided strike, and that was designed to just absolutely isolate the tank and delete them. We saw it again when I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we saw it again later when they played Expert. Like, the same thing happened to Bad Benny. Like, that's what was happening, and it's just after that it just all falls apart. So, and you know, Zug wasn't able to land any like high impact moshes. It was depressing, but I do want to give a shout out to Freedom. They did win a couple of team fights, and it looked like for a second there they were going to turn around that Braxis match. So, you know, more power to them. I hope nothing bad happens in this offseason. That, you know, I can be excited for my favorite team to come back strong in 2018. That's all.
Yes. And then we had Dignitas losing to Team Expert 0-2. Now, I called Dig to win this and completely got it wrong. Completely.
So I did have an opportunity to talk to Bakery too for a hot second after the matches were done that night. I bumped into him and saw Jake, and you know, like, I didn't know what to say to the guy. Like, I was like, I'm sorry. Like, you're like, what do you say after that? Like I guess you say, hey man, you had a great season. Like, but it didn't come to mind at the time. I was just like,
right.
I was literally awkward and embarrassing. I'm like, sorry. But he said, nah, don't be. And you know, Bakery's such a good dude. So like, he's like, nah, don't be, man. It was, you know, we played bad, and that's what it came down to. Like, you know, they played poorly, and it's a shame and it's disappointing, but it's what happened.
Yeah, I would agree.
I wouldn't have, you know, you and I both called it going into this. You know, Dig plays better on lands. Dig's
been around on lands forever, right?
Consistently, Dig's been the better team than Expert this season, even in Phase 2 towards the end there. Like, right. I don't know what to say.
Right.
You know, kudos to Team Expert for beating Dig and getting as far as they did.
And then Fnatic Tempo Storm. Oh man, Fnatic winning 2-1. Okay. Fnatic is my EU team, hands down, no questions asked. If you ask me, pick my favorite teams across the board, SPT, Ballistics. I was gonna say L5, but Ballistics. By the way, for you CN fans, BTG is a close second to SPT in my book. Fnatic in Europe and Roll20 in NA, right? And yeah. I struggled, though, because I wanted to see NA do well. I knew Roll20 was going to run into a wall with Ballistics, but I was hopeful. I thought Tempo Storm, if Fnatic didn't look great the day before, or not the day before, but the week before, so I was kind of hoping that Fnatic might not, you know, like, let's see what happens, right? I knew it was going to be a good series no matter what happened. That first game with the Garrosh Polybomb was absolutely amazing.
So I went to the Hero Site party after day 2 of BlizzCon, and I had an opportunity to talk to Fury about that, and he just oozed enthusiasm for game 1. He's like, "What'd you guys think of game 1? Like, did you see Garrosh?" He's like, "He's my favorite character to play. I finally got to play him. Did you see what we did with Medivh and the Polybomb strategy there?" I said, "Yeah, man. Like, every time you guys had you forced team fights in tight contested places, like on the Merc camps, and like you got so much value from the taunts into the polybombs, and it just like it was amazing. Like, we were freaking out for you, like, you know, just trying to tell them like how much enthusiasm they had from us, and like
right.
It was awesome. I didn't expect Tempo to take a single game off them, and it just goes to show, like, you know, like, that's not really a cheese strategy. It's just a pocket strat that you don't show. That has a, you know, I don't know how to explain it. It's not to me. Cheese is like when you 5-man 1 lane with like a weird push comp and has no chance of working again, or Murky. So like, I don't know. I loved it, and he was really happy to play Garrosh, and like I was really happy for the guy, and he took a picture. So.
No, absolutely. In fact, the only thing that bummed me out, if I remember correctly, we didn't get to see an ETC game, and I told him the night before at Con Before the Storm, I want to see an ETC and a Garrosh game out of you. And when I said Garrosh, he had this weird smile on his face, and he's like, "We'll see what we can do." And damn, they showed us what they could do with that one game. They ended up losing, and Fnatic actually seemed to like get their feet under them in game 3 and like really control game 3. But game 2,
well, you know what? So Tempo went down similarly to, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it seemed like and I talked to him about that, Fury about that as well. I was like, so they had a strategy they had in mind. It was like they went with the Kerrigan pick, and that was it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
but even in the audience, we were looking and like, why did he take Kerrigan there? Like, that's not like
into a Medivh and then something else too that just completely like, oh, it was I forget, whatever. Anyways, yes, into Medivh who could just teleport and protect people and just like completely hard counter Kerrigan and anything she wanted to do. And unfortunately, it just felt like that was the strategy they had for that map and that game and that situation, and it's like they didn't have anything else. So like there was no adaptation available. And like I guess I'll shoot ahead a little bit. Like that was the overarching theme with NA in general, at least
Yes.
with the two NA teams that showed the best when it came down to like their make or break moment for this BlizzCon was like there was no adaptation in draft. There was no plan B.
Let's jump into the next game, which is Ballistics Roll 20. Ballistics obviously winning 2-1. Roll 20 had a draft in mind for that third game, and they were like, this is the draft. We're sticking to it. You have 2 Vikings counters. It doesn't matter. We're still going to pull Vikings. Like, let's go. And it went exactly how, you know, I think we talked about it. And I was like, no, this could still work. You know, they could set their lanes up where it's like 2 Vikings in one lane, 1 Viking in another lane, and the 4-man push has to be really, really strong, right? And if you 4-man push really, really strong here, it could be okay, but your Vikings have to soak super safe. But you can still pull this off. And then they proceeded to not play that way.
Well, here's the problem. So their draft was like completely countered, but like you said, they still had a shot to execute it. The problem was execution, and they couldn't execute what they wanted to do.
Right.
Unfortunately. And they didn't do themselves any favor by not adapting and taking a chance to, or giving themselves a chance to try something different. And like, listen, we're not in their shoes, right?
Yeah.
They had a strategy in mind for that situation and that map. Kudos to them for sticking to their guns, because sometimes it's like, you could think of it as like a call-in game. Sometimes it's just better to stick to the plan, because like you start diverging and stuff, like all of a sudden you don't have a draft that's in sync with anything at all. It's just like this blah, you know what I mean? Like, you know, sometimes you like, we're not pros, but sometimes we'll leave like an unranked draft, like you look at it and we're like, we drafted some stuff to counter them, but like none of our stuff like synergizes.
Synergy's not there. Right.
So, you know, they had a plan. They stuck to the plan. It was a matter of execution. It wasn't executed. It was obviously, it feels bad that they had no adaptation to, or a backup plan, or I don't know, like, but we'll never forget game 1, which was great.
Yep.
Right. Can't take that away from them.
We'll never forget game 3 either, though.
And unfortunately, the blemish of game 3 is really what seems to be sticking on the internet.
Right.
Don't mind me as I like stuck on a cough drop here, guys.
Oh my God, you're not the only one.
I lost my throat. Lost my throat. I lost my voice cheering my ass off for NA at BlizzCon, and I still haven't gotten it back. So I'm just gonna be voiceless at work tomorrow.
True story. Towards the end of day 2, like he could hardly talk. But he was still up there screaming and yelling and dancing with our buddies when Fnatic won one of the games.
So, and I forgot to catch their names, but they know who they are. And if they're listening, shout out to you guys. You guys were the best. That's kind of energy we need for Heroes.
All right, so let's jump into the semifinals, where I don't think anybody was surprised by anything.
Day 2 BlizzCon.
MVP Black 3-0'd Team Expert, and Fnatic 3-0'd Ballistics.
All right, I'll be honest, I expected both of those sets to be a little more competitive. Like, I expected Black to beat Expert. I didn't expect a 3-0. I expected Fnatic to beat Ballistics. I didn't expect a 3-0. I would have not been surprised if it went 3-1 or 3-2.
So Fnatic Ballistics, I could see going that way. And this is nothing against Expert. We both got to talk to Bad Benny a little bit.
I didn't. You did.
Oh, I did. You're right. I got to talk to Bad Benny, and we watched him sign our boys. What did they have for him? A poster, I think, maybe. Oh yeah, the Who's Bad Benny Anyway poster. That's right. So
that was the was that the Gank Push squad?
That was the Gank Push squad. You're right. So those were the 2 things we got done with Bad Benny. But you know, I could have seen ADRD coming up with something crazy that maybe Black wouldn't have been able to react to, but I feel like out of all the times I've seen Black go to an international tournament, this was the one they were most prepared for, because there was like no hesitation, they just were like, this is what we're doing. We're countering what you like, we're banning what we know you like, and we're just winning. Part of that I'm going to attribute to Noblesse. I think hiring him as a coach was a genius move, because that dude could come up with some great drafts, and then adding him to giving him the ability to allow Rich to play what Rich plays well, and setting that team up for success is definitely something that happened there. I expected Black to 3-0 expert. There was like, I'd give it a 25% chance that ADRD came out with something crazy and maybe picked up a game 1 type thing. But once MVP Black got rolling, there was no stopping him there. And then, now, on the flip side, Fnatic Ballistics I thought would have gone 3-1. I knew Fnatic would win, but I thought Ballistics would have picked up a game off of Fnatic.
For sure, me too.
Yeah. Had we been doing MasterLeague.net predictions, we would not have gotten the full points for those.
we would not have been doing very well.
But Fnatic 3-0'd Ballistics, which actually made me happy. So two things happened here. One, the games were going really quick. Like, eSports was over by 8 p.m. day 1, and by like 6 p.m. day 2, which was crazy and unheard of in BlizzCon territory.
Not complaining.
I am.
It gave us the opportunity to go enjoy the con, man.
Right. So that was awesome. But my complaint is you clearly had time to do best of 3s and best of 5s and best of 7s, given how early we ended both days. Okay. All right. And that's all I'm going to say about that. There has been like tweets about that to like beat that horse dead.
Anyway. Yes, you're right, but the problem what they would point to is Heroes finished late into the night the last 2 BlizzCons, so they were probably trying to avoid that again.
Well, and Lord Boo's correct. What if each game had gone to the max? Then it would have been a little bit longer. Like I get it, I totally get it. I wanted more game. Like, I feel like you're playing for $500,000. Like, you should get a best of 5 and a best of 7.
Listen, and no, it wasn't Bad Betty. It was Athero who made a funny tweet. You know, like, oh, if it was best of 7, we totally would have won. Like,
right.
/S, like being sarcastic.
Right.
Like,
right.
Listen, it doesn't matter if it was Fnatic wasn't winning the finals if it was the best of 7. I'm sorry. It was very competitive it was a very competitive best of 5, but the best team won. Like, you can say that about the whole thing, about this whole tournament.
I would put forward that Roll20 may have been able to adjust.
They weren't beating Ballistics.
I'm holding the faith, man.
I love Roll20. They weren't beating Ballistics. No,
I'm holding the faith.
They pulled out all the stops for that best of 3, and they couldn't get the job done. Like, they tried to pull out some pocket strats. They did that weird thing with D.Va on 2 Spider Queen. That was their best chance.
That's probably true.
Absolute best chance to get that second win and move on. It was downhill after that.
All right. Okay. I'll let it go for now. And then we had the finals, which was crazy off the hook in person. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, it was kind of insane. Fnatic ended up going down to MVP Black 3-1. Like,
listen,
that was amazing.
It was a really, really good finals. Like, I'll say this: it could have went the other way, right?
Yes.
So the games that, except for I think game 2, was it game 2? No, game 3. Game 3. I think MVP Black like won handily, if I'm remembering correctly. But like game 4 and game 2 easily could have went to Fnatic. Right. Fnatic fell behind early, unfortunately, in game 2, but they had the better draft. Even the commentators were mentioning like Black after Fnatic handily won game 1, Black was drafting scared, like straight up.
Yeah.
And Fnatic had the draft that they wanted in their hands in game 2 and just did not execute. Like, just played like duty. But it was still close. Game 3, MVP Black won. Game 3, MVP Black won handily. And then game 4, again, was a nail biter and could have went either way.
Yep.
So Fnatic got down early. But that crazy Stitches Medivh super high burden of execution comp that they were executing.
Right.
Like, they fell down early, but they made the comeback, and like it was just both teams had 3 keeps left. Both teams were down to 4 players each. They had each, gotten a player down in the most previous team fight, and Black was, pressuring on Fnatic side of the map, but they were jockeying back and forth to get that pick that would win the game, right?
Yep.
That's what would happen. And lo and behold, Black got that pick on Breeze, sadly.
Yes.
and it was it. It was over.
And then
and then Black
Yep.
win.
Yep.
And the whole place went insane, and the confetti fell on our head, and we got
That's
a ton
so
of photos,
awesome.
and we got to see the guys come out and pick up the trophy. It was fantastic. But again, I want to emphasize we could easily be talking about how Black played them
Right.
really close, but
And
Fnatic won.
Right.
I just want to emphasize that point. It was a very competitive series. It was really entertaining to watch. The Stitches hooks into the portal to behind the wall and burning a player down, amazing.
Yep.
Really, really good stuff. Like, unfortunately, it's such a late game comp though, because let's be honest, like they were picking off one player at a time. They weren't really winning team fights. They were just picking
Right.
off a player and trying to
Right.
get leverage that for an advantage. But the rest of it just they weren't able to leverage that into a second or a third kill and get split res timers or anything like that, or force the team back. And, like up 5v4, let's go siege down to 4. They weren't really able
Right.
to leverage it until late game when the res time, like death timers, got long enough to make that possibility, make that a possibility. So, and unfortunately, they just ran out of time. I guess is the best way to put it, and they made the one mistake late game.
And that was that.
That was it.
And so
But,
now we have MVP Black as our world champions.
And deservedly so. I'll be honest with you. Like,
Yeah.
The team looked so on point. It was insane. Like, just like the cohesiveness of the team was incredible. The just snap decisions to burn down one player were it was a joy to watch. It was MVP Black at its best.
Yep.
I'm glad that they're back.
All right, so we have the Gold Cup World Cup coming up soon.
We do.
I'm blank on the dates. Starting
GC
November
dates.
27th. That's right. So last
To
week
the
of the month.
10th, correct?
Yeah, November 27th through December 10th. We don't know who's going to be streaming it at all yet. Obviously, we're hoping to see some English stream out of somebody like Cavalier Guest did it one year. I'd be good with that.
I would hope that with the league structure in place now, that maybe Blizzard doesn't have any weight at all to like say, hey, can we get a clean feed and put 2 of our professional casters on it?
Right, that would be nice.
Maybe we don't get that, or can we send 2 casters over there for an English? Like, just put them, send them to China with the players and give them a little desk. Like, how like in we'll use Korea as an example, where like G-Clef and Wolf have their own separate little casting desk and little setup.
Yep.
And then there's obviously the Korean casters, right?
Right.
Why not set something like that up for an English stream?
It would be nice, right?
Great.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we get that. Heroes, the esports scene's a little bit bigger than it was last year. I'd like to hope and dream that we'll get that. If we don't, then we'll get a Cavalier Guest solo cast, and you and I will we'll talk about it.
Right. No, it would be great to see that. So teams we have Fnatic and Dig coming from EU. We have Roll20 coming across from NA. We have MVP Black and Ballistics from Korea, and then we have CE, SPT, and BTG coming from China. I am totally looking forward to see how this goes. I cannot wait. I'm hoping that CE, SPT. I'm hoping that all the teams bring all their players. It'll be interesting. With Prismat being out, it'll be interesting to see if he goes or not. I suspect it will be a player to be named later.
Well, by this point, this is after the rosters will be announced for 2018, so we'll have the new Roll20 roster.
Right, but the question is, those same people need to get visas to play there. And I was talking to some Tempo Storm people about this before we went to BlizzCon, and they were all working on rosters, all working on visas like the day after BlizzCon, because that's when the Gold Cup teams were announced. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
My disappointment, like my thing is like I wish it was more than 8 teams. Like I'm glad that there is. Like last time, there's only one EU and one NA team. There's still only one NA team, which is fine. I don't know. I wish it was a little bit of a bigger tournament. That's all. But the water cube is pretty hype. So.
Right. All right. So let's jump into some amateur stuff. Not a whole lot going on right now. Open Division's obviously on a break, as is the pro scene right now. But we do have Heroes Hype still running tournaments. Their amateur, I think they're on week 86 or 87, is running right now over on the Heroes Hype channel, unless they already finished for the night. I did not notice. And then Rect League is playing again tomorrow night, and that's going to have UDAL casting. So two really good amateur scenes to check out. Charity League, of course, coming back next year, but they are going to have a Christmas tournament. And then Open Division contract is open right now, so they have not announced who will be hosting Open Division yet for 2018. We'll have to see how that goes. I am eagerly watching that to see what that ends with. And we're on week 85 for Heroes Hype. So
nice.
Cool.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I want to ask you is not a major curveball.
Okay.
So no worries. Looks like it's going to be a short show tonight. Is now that BlizzCon is said and done.
Yes.
What do you think about the format now that we've lived it? Can
Okay.
you lay out your solution for me to fix BlizzCon?
So BlizzCon needs to go 3 days. If we're only talking specifically what would
Not
I change
happening.
about BlizzCon, BlizzCon should be 3 days, not 2 days. I know it's not happening. That's a realistic. Okay, so, but it can happen. And here's my point. They do a lot of test runs, right? They do a lot of test runs. So start the games on Thursday, okay? Say, hey, for an extra $40, you can have an eSports ticket added to your BlizzCon, right? And then you go Thursday to the eSports games. So you move Calm Before the Storm to Wednesday. You do Thursdays straight up eSports days, and you knock out, you run all day, but you knock out all your quarterfinals, so that Saturday or Friday rather can be semifinals day, and Saturday is just your finals. Or maybe you have to do like the last two quarterfinals on Friday, right? But you don't necessarily have to have the entire all of it open, right? You can totally cordon off the other halls and say the hero stage is open. I don't think the Overwatch stage had the same challenge. So the reality is you just open up the hero stage and let people.
I'm going to stop you there for a second. Actually,
Okay.
and only just because I want to touch on something. The Overwatch tournament had the World Cup tournament had. So, Heroes ended up the way it was supposed to end up, regardless of the single elim, regardless of the best of three. We didn't have any upsets. The favorite team,
right.
essentially, or the two best teams made it to the finals, and we're all satisfied with the results. Everything worked out fine. The format, as unpopular as it was going in, everything played out fine. For the guys coordinating this event, they're like, I told you so, right?
Right. Absolutely.
But here, I'm going to give you an example of how this could have went south quickly.
Okay.
The best team was South Korea in the Overwatch World Cup.
Okay.
And they won the World Cup.
Yep.
But the second best team was USA.
Okay.
And guess who they played in the quarterfinals?
South Korea.
South Korea. No double elim bracket. No chance for them to make it to the finals. They
Right.
lost to South Korea. They were the only. They won the first match against South Korea, and then lost and went to some quadruple. You had squads, but they went to several tiebreakers. It went through about as intense as Overwatch gets. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Unfortunately, single elim lost there. That was it.
Right.
Their BlizzCon was over on day one in the very first match of the day.
Right.
Second best team. Canada, no offense to Daz, not on their level. Had an easier side of the bracket, made it to the finals, got stomped. Period.
But that's my point. If you have a day 3, you can do double elimination there.
You're right. You can fix it. You can do double elim. You can do proper matches, best of 5. If your regular season matches aren't going to be best of 3, then why would single elim matches that have as much value as like a lot of money?
Right. And that's where I'm going, right? You don't necessarily have to extend the other way and go into Sunday, because Sunday is Disneyland Day. I wouldn't mess with that, right? But you could absolutely say, get your eSports pass for Thursday. You want to be here? BlizzCon proper is still Friday, Saturday. You want to be here a day early, get let into the hall, and watch these teams compete on Thursday? Go for it. Otherwise, all we're doing is casting, because let's be honest, all they were doing was casting anyway, right? They could just as easily do that in an empty arena. Like, if nobody was sitting there live, they still could have run the same games with the same content, right? You wouldn't have had the crowd noise. Still could have done the games though, right? So you can absolutely do a Thursday eSports pass, run another set of games on Thursday. That gets you 3 days for the convention, because they're in there Thursday anyway. We're all getting our passes.
Yeah, they're doing
Thursday.
rehearsal. They're doing rehearsals.
They're doing rehearsals Thursday. They just run the games Thursday. Same thing, and we're good to go. So I think that's my solution, honestly.
I want to do you one better.
Okay.
Say it's not feasible. Say whatever reason it's not feasible to have to do that in the hall that day.
Okay.
A week before, they're doing the group stages in their own Blizzard-owned arena.
Right.
Which they didn't sell tickets to, and they should have. We both have talked about that, right? That should have been open to the public. People like DJ Chiron, who live out in LA, can buy a ticket and go. It's not a huge arena. It's not like, it's not going to be empty. It's only a couple hundred seats anyways. Listen, open it up. Do the quarterfinals out there. Right, all
right.
Like, whatever. You do a double elim bracket. You do the quarterfinals out there, and then you do the semifinals of the losers and the winners bracket at BlizzCon, and then you can do and then on the final day of BlizzCon, you do the losers bracket final, and then the grand final. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Why not? I get it. They're trying to get as many teams as possible out to BlizzCon, but if it's not feasible to do a third day, then do that. You have your arena. People still get to go see them. It was such a great production. It's fine. I'll watch. If I can't get out there a week, if you sold tickets, I might consider making it a 2-week vacation and go out the week earlier.
Right. I totally would do that. If I had the ability to go into the arena and watch games the week before, I would.
And we know enough time in advance, right?
I would absolutely make it a 2-week trip. I would buy tickets. I would go to both.
Yes. I took 2 vacations this year. It's totally feasible for me. It's all paid time off. I got paid to go to BlizzCon.
Right. Absolutely. I would 100% do it. Yes. 100%. So we'll see. Matt.
So that would be my solution. You do. It's best of 5s when we're in the knockout rounds, right? Like if you're getting that,
right.
Fine, best of 3. All right, best of 3s. If it knocks you to the losers bracket, I can deal with it as long as there's a losers bracket to fall on, right? But if it's like, all right, it's time to go home time, best of 5s. Let's be real. Grand finals, best of 7. People don't like a winner's bracket advantage. I do. There should be some sort of incentive for winning the winner's bracket. We can't do bracket resets. This isn't a fighting game. We don't have 10 years.
Right.
That's what I would do. I would sell tickets to the arena. I would put the initial stages of the playoffs, stage, like the initial round of the playoffs done in the arena. You get your round robin groups. You could do 2 groups of 8. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's 2 best of 2. I don't know. We're not tournament organizers. It'd be nice to have one of have a Blizzard employee who has say in the development of this to just give us their side of the story,
right,
and share it. And but between you and I, 2 groups of 8, best of 2s, round robin, seed a playoff, start the playoffs the week, as part of that, right after the group stage,
right,
the first round, or whatever leading up to BlizzCon. Then when you get to BlizzCon on the big boy stage, that's when you have your final loser bracket final, your loser bracket semifinals.
Yeah, you can totally make that work. Yeah,
and make it work. It's totally doable. So is it feasible? Maybe there's not enough money in Heroes to make it happen. Ultimately, what ended up happening, single elim wasn't such a bad thing. If they're going to stick to their guns in the single elim thing, then let's get best of 5s and not best of 3s. All right,
yep. I agree.
Make it happen.
Completely.
Make it happen. That's all I'm saying, guys. Make it happen, Blizzard. I do appreciate the fact that we ended at like 5, I think, on Saturday.
It was 6
5 or
on
6.
Saturday. Yeah.
Also, I had a ton of time to actually go. Like, I got to play heroes. You know, sit down and try out the new hero stuff. I didn't get to play Alistraz or Hanzo, but I got to like play against them. That was cool.
Yeah.
Got to go check out Blizzard World on the Overwatch computers. You know, got to go to Hearthstone and try out the new dungeon run thing. Like, you know, that worked out in my favor. That part was cool. You and I both got to go run around. I got to leave the part. You know, I got everything I wanted done at BlizzCon to leave and go check out the Heroes Hype Party, and that's where I got to go. You know. That's where I got the opportunity to talk to Fury. I wouldn't have had that opportunity otherwise. So shout out to Heroes Hype. Thank you for throwing that great party. I didn't stay long, but it was a great opportunity to go and talk to some people I didn't get a chance to talk to. I got to see Haller in there. So cool. That's it, man. That's all I got. We turned that curveball into a nice little 15-minute discussion.
We did, right? That's what we do. We like to talk. All right. Thank you all for listening to Trollin HGC, a weekly podcast about Heroes of the Storm eSports, a member of the Trolls GG Entertainment Network. We stream live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TrollsGG, every week on Wednesdays following the Nexus Trolls around 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Bahgz, where can people find you?
People can follow me on Twitter at Bahgz HGC. They can watch me stream on twitch.tv/Bahgz. As well, if you enjoyed tonight's show and are interested in Blizzard's other esports offerings, consider subscribing to the Weekly Blizz. It's a podcast where my buddy Gwazin and I cover all of Blizzard's esports offerings and can be found on all podcast sources.
All right. And the best place to find me is on Twitter at LiQuidGG. That's LiQiuDGG. I tweet whenever I'm about to do anything interesting or if I find something that I think might be interesting to you. Thank you to all our Patreon supporters. If you like the show and you're looking for a way to support us, you can do so in a few ways. One of those is patreon.com/TrollsGG. Additionally, you can subscribe on our Twitch channel, cheer at us, or, you know, throw some bits our way. Twitch.tv/TrollsGG. Obviously, you guys here live are watching it now. Subscribe to our show on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you happen to find your podcasts online. If you're looking for a way to support us non-financially, you can leave reviews of our shows on any of those platforms. You can visit our website at www.trollsgg to watch this and past shows, along with reading some great articles. We have 4 authors writing articles for us now on trolls.gg. Definitely go check that out. If you're interested in being a part of the trolls.gg family, we are looking for a social media manager to tweet when we post new articles, post to Reddit when we have featured articles, and just in general watch for comments that somebody might need to respond to. You can hit me up on Twitter for more information about that. If you want to hang out with us and the Trolls community in game, just type /join TrollsGG in Heroes of the Storm, or you can join our Discord channel, trolls.gg/Discord. For announcements about the show and Heroes of the Storm esports news, you can follow the Twitter account at Trollin HGC. Finally, if you need to get in touch with us, hit us up on Twitter. DMs are open, or email trollin@TrollsGG. Thank you all for watching. Have a great night.
Peace out.